This is your Daily 5 for Monday, February 23rd, 2026. You know, I've got to hand it to Lando. For somebody who does not watch anywhere near as much low-budget and B-movie cinema as I do, he has had a pretty good track record of picking movies that on the surface look like they might be very questionable and end up being, well, in the case of Miami Gollum, highly entertaining. And in the case of this movie, the one I'm going to be talking about in a second, entertaining and more layered than you might expect. Lando came across a film from 1976 titled Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde, starring Bernie Casey, who's one of those actors who, when you see him, you'll know him. He's been in a lot of things, high profile and low profile, as it turns out, and is a very reliable, usually character actor, but in this case is the lead. And based on that title, I'll be honest, I was expecting it to be not that great. I didn't think it was going to be awful necessarily. The reviews didn't indicate a truly bad movie, but I wasn't expecting all that much from it because Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde just feels like a engineered title to get a sensationalist response. So I really just didn't think the movie was going to have all that much to it. But I got to tell you, and Lando had the same reaction, this movie has way more going on than you would expect it to the point where I really hope somebody remasters and releases a better looking version of this, because right now the quality is just pretty abysmal anywhere you watch it. We found a decent copy, but certainly not what I would call a good one in terms of the video. And this movie deserves to be seen by more people because it takes the classic Jekyll and Hyde idea and manages to add something really interesting to it in terms of not even just the black experience. There is that element because there's a spirit, which is called a haint, which apparently is a very well-known Southern type of spirit that is referenced as what the in this case, Dr. Henry Pride, not Jekyll, Henry Pride, that's what he's changing into. And neither of us had heard that term before, Lando and I. So there was a character using the term, and I really didn't know what he was saying. And then I looked it up and realized, oh no, this is actually a thing. But it also has a character that has a really interesting backstory that leads to a specific type of psychology in how he is dealing with some of the characters in the movie. Again, for a movie with a title, and it does have an alternate title, which is far better, that they did not use. The alternate title was The Watts Monster, which I think would have been a far better title, but might have not generated again. You wouldn't look up and see that in the marquee in the mid-70s and think, oh, wow, what is this? That would seem like a more, I don't know if the word mainstream would apply, but it would be a more traditional type of title that might have gotten the movie bypassed. But I think now, after the movie was released, that type of title is going to put some people off because they're going to just write it off as, again, sensationalist garbage. And it really isn't that. I actually legitimately would tell people to watch this because I think it's a good movie. It's probably, in terms of the narrative and what it's trying to do, one of the better films we've watched, which I would never, ever have guessed based on that title. So it is a variation on the Jekyll Hyde story. There are many kind of key elements that you will recognize from the original tale. But again, it manages to add something special to it. And I don't want to get into spoilers. We'll talk about it on Friday. But I really would stress to a lot of people, if you are looking for an interesting interpretation of a classic story, this is a pretty good one. In terms of where I've seen Jekyll and Hyde interpreted over the years, this is probably one of the more thoughtful versions that I've seen in terms of what it's trying to achieve. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's a perfect movie beginning to end. It has its little flaws here and there, which most of them seem budgetary, but it also does way more than you would expect just reading about it and looking at that title. So it is a shame, A, that you can't watch it in a really good quality. You're going to have to just accept what it's in, which is probably a ripped VHS in almost every case, and not a particularly good ripped VHS. And the fact that it does have a really awful title. But if you give this movie the time, if you actually just go into it and let it tell the story it's trying to tell, then honestly, this is a much better movie than I think the title and even maybe its reputation based on that title would lead you to believe. So if you have the chance and if you can find a watchable copy, take the time and check out 1976's Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde. It is far better than it has any right to be. Later.